all our learners. Welcome to CEC Online Lectures. Dear learners, I am Dr. Amna. I teach political science at Shama Prasad Mukherjee College for Women, University of Delhi. The lecture will focus on a very important topic, that is India-UAE Relations. This lecture will be of great use for our learners that are focusing on competitive examination, for learners from the discipline of political science, international relations, international business, and for learners who are keen to track new avenues in the international business environment also from the diplomatic relations perspective. Dear learners, whenever we deliberate bilateral relations, multilateral engagements for any two entities, it is very important to first have a look towards the historical insights. Now, when we look at India-UAE relations, both India as well as UAE have had great historical flourishing ties. These ties were strengthened due to various reasons, and one of the most important reasons that strengthened India-UAE ties in the past as well as in the contemporary times is that of trade and commerce. Today, no doubt relations between India and UAE are much more multifaceted, much more dynamic, and looking at these perspectives, it is essential to be seen that how within the realm of trade, commerce, people-to-people contact, people-to-business connect, government-to-government connects, trade and commerce have given a very strong base for both India as well as UAE. Today, when we look at rising tourism, when we look at data of huge number of expatriates, people not residing in their native country from India that is there within United Arab Emirates, this tells us that how trade and successful commercial relations have given a meaningful apparatus for the conduct of India-UAE relations. Whenever we try to understand India-UAE relations, the contemporary phase is very important, namely because the ties between both the entities are witnessing historic events that are laying the foundation for new horizons, for tapping new avenues, for working on new opportunities. However, at the same time, there are challenges also, and both the entities, India and UAE, are engaging, no doubt, with each other to get most out of these bilateral and multilateral engagements. When we look at India-UAE, it is important to see that how after 2015 there has been increase in visits of dignitaries from both the sides. This also speaks a lot about the level of commitment, faith both sides accord to positive, cooperative, peaceful engagements with each other. When we look at India-UAE relations, a very important aspect is that of energy security. And this energy security, the quest to garner more avenues of energy resources, have a bearing on not only commercial domestic policies of both India and UAE, but at the same time, it has an important bearing on the larger regional perspective also, namely looking at from the standpoint of West Asia policy. When we look at UAE, it is one of India's largest trading partner. At the same time, India offers a huge market for goods and services from UAE. So therefore, it shows that how the bilateral engagements have been a two-way affair where both India and UAE are working to get most out of these engagements. When we see that how the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi was the chief guest at the Republic Day in India in 2017, when we look how in the past there have been joint meetings for economic and technical cooperation, the digital museums, all of it shows that how today terms between India and UAE are being worked on new parameters where soft power, avenues of human resources, cultural ties, economic ties are having a huge impact and a positive ray of hope for ties to nurture further. When we hear about it, how at the World Government Summit, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji was the chief guest. Then similarly, when we looked at how for Abu Dhabi music and other festivals, how India was also invited as a guest of honor. So this also shows that how soft power between India and UAE is having its own dynamics to strengthen people to people contact, to strengthen more avenues of economic agreements and engagements. When we look at India-UAE ties, a very important aspect, especially that is seen in the contemporary times, is that of defense engagement. When we look at in the past activities and events like Gulf Star operations, or when we hear about Desert Eagle operations, all of it shows that how both the sides, India and UAE, have now developed the maturity, have now the confidence to take their relations towards the next level, not just reducing them to cultural and soft power avenues, but also lay the foundation of meaningful relations even in the defense realm, where there are avenues of cooperation, from working on issues of combating high-level threats to joint naval exercises. All of it shows that how today the bilateral engagements between India and UAE have factored in defense sector also as an important parameter to strengthen ties between India and UAE. When we look at economic engagements often give a platform to work out diplomacy towards the a bigger ambit of global politics. India and UAE relations have witnessed a landmark in this regard also. When we hear about India and UAE cooperation for development of IT infrastructure in Ethiopia, this shows that how both the sides got together to sign MOUs to work on Africa, and also shows that how there has been redefinition, reimagination of the idea of South-South cooperation. Now, when we look at how terms, economic terms get more meaning when they are laid on an ambit of independence. Similarly, India-UAE ties too witnessed a historical landmark agreement, that is of currency swap agreement. Both sides agreed to trade with each other without dependence on any other currency. This shows that how economic engagements further become much more meaningful by having more engageful, meaningful, cooperative avenues in the trade, in the monetary exchange system. Similarly, how today when we hear about ADNOC, the state entity in UAE, working out to get investments for India, working on areas of petrochemicals, refining work. This shows that how today the terms between India and UAE are being diversified, and this diversification from the realm of defense to the realm of strategic reserves, or to the realms of exploring investment opportunities, or to working out mechanisms in the petrochemicals, in the refining sector. So therefore, lot of new areas are being discovered, and this definitely has an important bearing for any two sides to take their relationships forward on a much meaningful paradigm. When we look at India-UAE relations, an important take for all our learners is to understand that how India-UAE in the past have also thought of the need for peace and stability in the region, and because of that there have been efforts to work out fast-track mechanisms of several cases wherein India has raised concerns about terrorism or about support to anti-national activities against India, and wherein UAE has played a very important part in factoring in better avenues of engagement by giving due support to Indian concerns. Now this also speaks that how today UAE looks upon India as a very important partner in the region. When we look at the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC, which is also India's largest trading partner, both Saudi Arabia and UAE in that regard have huge faith on India to take leadership forward, to guide things on the world plane, to lead things forward on the global political level. So this also shows that how dynamics of world politics, with globalization becoming multifaceted, with power having several dimensions, India and UAE have meticulously worked together to ensure that due national interest of both sides is fulfilled and strengthened, and of course wherever there have been disagreements, attempts have been made to reconcile. Now this also brings us to a very important historical insight, that is how research has shown that even in the past how Emiratis used the Indian rupee as a legal tender. At the time of Indus Valley civilization, there were great trade ties of rice, pulses, cereals between India and the Gulf region, and how because of India's credibility, Indian rupee was used as a legal tender by many Emiratis. Now this also shows that how historical ties based on trade and commerce, based on cultural people to people contact, based on connections of diaspora, today are being much more worked out in a larger ambit where both sides gain a lot from each other. Today both sides through at various levels, through the level visits of all the dignitaries, through deliberations of various policy think tanks, government administrative mechanisms, foreign services, foreign affairs apparatus are thinking on new areas of cooperation, from defense to medical tourism to ambit of education, horizons, technological cooperation, amongst others. Now this also shows that how today both the countries have really identified that today there are new ambits of power in the global realm. When we hear about India and UAE working on digital realms or factoring in cooperation with each other on the economic realm, this shows that how from defense, the conventional military idea of power, national interest, to the non-traditional aspects of security, power and national interest, namely technology, pandemics, terrorism, economic gains, human resources, cultural diplomacy, people-to-people contact. Today, both sides have indeed come a long way. Very important for us from the Indian perspective to identify and analyze why is UAE an important trading partner or a bilateral engaging partner for India. First, we have to see that when we look at GCC, when we look at West Asia, UAE has an important terrain for India. It is important to ensure peace and stability in the region, and also at the same time, when we look at the geographical ambit of Strait of Hormuz, it's very important that UAE terms have always helped India. Strong, meaningful terms with UAE have benefited India to ensure peace, stability, cooperation in the region. Then comes the aspect of diaspora. People to people contact have an important role in diplomatic avenues and global politics. India UAE ties, no doubt, are today on a much more strengthened zone because of presence of Indian diaspora in UAE, and this often lays the basis for other cycles and exercises of trade, economic engagements, interdependencies, interrelations, and exchange. Another important aspect is that of how today UAE has a lot of sovereign funds, and this becomes important for channelizing into NIIF investment areas in India, because sound economic diplomacy often lays the framework, the background for any two nations to engage with each other, to take relationship to next level, which is mutually gainful and beneficial for both the sides. A very important aspect whenever we look at West Asian region is that of issue of Qatar, issue of Iran. Now, for all of it, it has to be seen that India and UAE have spoken, they have worked out mechanisms to ensure that regardless of these challenges, regardless of the issues stemming up from these aspects, the terms between India and UAE remain on an affirmative note. A very important aspect is that of laws. Time and again, there have been debates in the media, there has been debates in the academia also, that somewhere the Emiratis laws, somewhere labor laws, they are somewhere not in favor. They're not in tandem as per to the needs of present times. And yes, it is always hoped that these issues are all sorted out and resolved. But nonetheless, when we look at India-UAE relations from 1971 onwards to the present times, the relationship between both sides have indeed grown day by day. They have evolved over a period of time, and today these relationships, from visits of diplomats, from visits of dignified or all dignitaries, to high level awards being conferred by both sides, or to the fact that today both sides recognize the presence of each other in their important days and events. All of it shows the kind of faith both sides affirm towards each other. It is very important to see that how both sides, India and UAE, have recognized that today there are challenging times wherein the idea of global politics too is contested, in terms of the fact that issues of global politics are complex. Today what is witnessing in global politics is that there are interdependencies, but at the same time there is a complex web of challenges, of as well opportunities that are there in the realm of interdependence and interchange. Both India and UAE have worked out this ambit of cooperative engagements on a much meaningful way, wherein we see that from the realm of defense to the realm of better cooperation for regional stability, or to the realm of economic engagements, better gains to diaspora, strengthening trade and commerce ties, valuing cultural affinity, people to people contact. Indeed, the terms have come a long way. Though challenges remain, but the essence here is that both sides are willing to cooperate. They are not ready to take their terms, which have grown over a period of time, have a setback because of one thing or the other. And it also shows that today how India diplomatic avenues have indeed grown and risen with time. There is a degree of acceptance to take forward terms there is a degree of courage and conviction to analyze relationships from not just the traditional parlance but also engage in new avenues of cooperation and ensuring at the same time that national interest is duly secured, and wherever there are issues or challenges to contest, that can be resolved by due dialogue and other cooperative mechanisms. Dear learners, this lecture on India-UAE relations focused on how that from historical avenues to people contact to trade, commercial engagements, to new realms of technology, working out new MOUs, India-UAE ties today indeed are much more mature, strong, multi-dimensional. Thank you, listeners, for being with us for the lecture on India-UAE relations, the new aspects. Thank you.